On 13 December 2025, for the 126th time in history, our greatest game that the country has to offer is taking place. That's right, folks. It's Army-Navy week, plus college football reactions right now. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of the D-Gen Docs here on the DFSG Plus channel. It's Army-Navy week, folks. Go Army, beat Navy. You're going to get a very unbiased breakdown here. But what is up, folks?
One of us, maybe.
Oh, yeah, from one of at least half of the panel here. I am the D-Gen Doc, more importantly, joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, a.k.a. Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I was really concerned. You know, my fandom came into question. No, maybe it didn't come into question, but this was the first time that, I almost had the feeling of losing both on Saturday and Sunday all season long. And it was a tight one. It was a tight one. Not exactly how I wanted Saturday night to end, obviously. But Sunday cleaned things up, so it's all good.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the NFL show, but you had another very impressive week. We crushed it in the NFL. But one of us picked Indiana, and leave it to an Ohio State fan to hijack.
Yeah, I took the under, and
you did hit the under. Congratulations! That was no sweat. But leave it to an Ohio State fan to jack a Army-Navy show and immediately start crying about a Buckeyes loss, first of the season. But hey, folks, look, it is the Army-Navy game that we are going to be talking about today, right now, breaking down. That's going to be the majority of the show. We're going to talk a little history because if you know these games, uniforms is something we'll be talking about. It's got a great history. One of the best games that I think we have here in this great country. Then college football reaction, man. Sunday noon, some big things we got to get to. We have to talk about. I think that's where, we'll do a quick recap as we always do from last week. Look, conference championship weekend, 4-3 for myself. Derek 2-4. I did hit my lock and my dog. I tried to steer him away from North Texas and Ohio State, but hey, you know what we can talk about at least is your two college football playoff futures, which we already kind of cast, did come through.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and move on.
It was nice to look down at some more money in the account.
Yes, season long, you gave out Texas Tech at, I believe, 4-1, and Texas A&M at a close to 3-1. Both came home because this is the Sunday, noon Eastern time. The unbiased committee apparently released this 12-team playoff bracket. Look, we're going to go section by section here and kind of talk about some breakdowns and things like that. But first 4 round buys: Indiana 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Texas Tech 4. Let's talk about this for real quick. I think this would probably be the least controversial. I think the committee got it right. I think the only argument could be Ohio State and Georgia potentially flipped. But Ohio State has one 3-point loss to the number 1 team in the country, and that was very back and forth. I don't think that game was, it really came down to the wire there. No domination either way. So what are your thoughts on the first 4?
Yeah, no, I think I texted you probably around halftime. I can't remember if it was a little bit before or a little after, but I was like, I think whoever wins this is 1, whoever loses this is 2, and that's exactly what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, when you lose to the number 1 team by 3, fucking college kickers, man.
Was it a 20? It was under 30, right?
27. I could have hit that.
7. Wow. Yeah, I just grabbed one of the McAfee kids from College Game Day, and you probably got a decent shot at hitting that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But no, I think it at the end of the day, 2, 3, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be on the same side of the bracket either way. Although I think I would rather be in the 3 spot looking at the game that's leading into that personally.
Yeah.
So,
3 spot doesn't look too bad. We will talk about that and pass to victory there. All right, next, the teams that are hosting a playoff game in the first round, which is always fun.
yep,
I think the whole damn thing should be on campus, but hey, at least the quarterfinals. We don't
yeah,
need any of these
agreed.
stupid bowls anyway, but we'll get there eventually. Um, so we've got Oregon at the 5 slot. You've got Ole Miss at the 6 slot, Texas A&M at the 7 slot, Oklahoma at the 8 slot.
Yep.
3 teams with 1 loss, Oklahoma being the only 2-loss team, the highest ranked 2-loss team there.
Yep.
Probably not a lot here either because I think, really no one played. How are they going to move them? Right. I think they're all kind of in their same spots.
Right.
Oklahoma with pretty impressive wins there.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I could have seen flopped was Ole Miss and Texas A&M, with Lane finally deciding, hey, after the Egg Bowl, I'm gone,
You're
heading
right.
down to Baton Rouge. I
Right.
was kind of surprised that they kept it, the same as they did earlier in the week. Although I guess they had that information at that point as well.
Right.
But yeah, I think those, if it was me in the committee, if I were making the decisions, I would have just flopped those two.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see an argument there. I think just A&M's loss came later, and that's what they were
Right.
doing. But I agree. I think, and we'll get to the futures market in a second.
Well, and I
But
think that's part of the reason that I would go that way too. Is Ole Miss they've been playing some really good ball over the last month or so, and
right.
A&M just slipped up and they haven't looked quite as clean.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but I think ultimately committee did a decent job in these first
Yep.
things. Now
Yep.
the shit show happens, and we'll talk about these all together
Yeah.
here at the end because this is where most of the debate's going to come in. Your road playoff games. Number 9, Alabama did not move. Number 10, Miami Hurricanes jumped over Notre Dame.
Yep.
They do have the head-to-head. We'll get to that. Number 11, Tulane won the AAC. That was probably a thing. And then 12, JMU, which was kind of the thought process if Virginia messed up, which they wind up doing, losing to Duke. And then the first 4 out: Notre Dame, BYU, Texas, and Vanderbilt.
Yep.
All right, I will open the discussion with this. We have to talk about the committee's decision to punish BYU, an 11-1 BYU team with 1 loss to the number 4 team in the country in the Big 12. Kick them out.
Now 2 losses.
Now 2 losses to the number 4 team in the country.
Right.
And then keep Alabama, who just as well got embarrassed in their championship game.
Yep.
Now is it first 3 team, or first team with 3 losses, I think. That's not a conference championship. First at large 3-loss team, right?
Yep.
So let's start there. I will say ESPN and SEC. As an SEC guy, I'm a Gator alum. I'm a Florida Gator at heart. That's my number 1 college rooting interest. The ESPN and the SEC being in bed with each other is really not good for the sport. I don't give a shit what you say. That's insane to have that double standard. I think you either kick them both out or you keep them both in. You either say conference championships matter or you say they don't. So I would have rather BYU and Alabama stayed, or Notre Dame and Miami were in over those 2 schools. I think either of those are justifiable.
Sure.
How do you justify leaving Alabama in and kicking BYU out?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest question that I have over this entire process because, I get that the SEC is a gauntlet. I get it. At the end of the day, I think there has to be one thing said, and the College Football Playoff Committee they're not ESPN related. It's completely separate from ESPN. It's completely separate from the SEC. There's committee members from all of the conferences, but it does seem like there is definitely some bias there towards the SEC and at times the Big Ten as well. I mean, being the 2 most preeminent conferences at this point, but I don't know how you necessarily keep a 3-loss at this point Alabama team who struggled in the Iron Bowl, and then they just got embarrassed. they just got embarrassed in the SEC championship, where BYU has lost to Texas Tech twice in embarrassing fashion.
Right.
But Texas Tech has one loss, and it was when their backup quarterback was playing, their
Yeah.
backup
Starting
running
quarterback.
back was playing on
Yeah.
the road against a college football playoff team last year in Arizona State, NC11.
Right.
So, I mean, if it were me, I think I would be pissed off even more so being BYU, being in, I guess they were still out last weekend, which I think you could argue that.
Right. They were 11 or something
I
going
think
in.
they were, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you have one loss to potentially the best team in the field at this point,
Yeah.
now two losses, it's like, I mean, I don't know.
No, you're right. I mean, look, whether it's the SEC, what you can say is that Alabama will bring in more money and more eyes
Yes.
to the college football playoff. So TV corporations and
Yep.
corporate greed is a big thing that's
Yep.
degrading this sport and all the things
Yep.
that we love and grew up on.
But I would argue that Notre Dame would be an even bigger draw than Alabama.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Miami over Notre Dame is kind of Miami over Notre Dame. I think this just should have been the way it was ranked the whole time.
Yeah.
You have a direct head to head.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Notre Dame's rest of schedule outside of A&M and Miami, and Miami's rest of schedule outside of they played a couple tough out of conference games, right?
Sure.
But the ACC wasn't super strong this year. They both beat the shit out of Pitt in a common opponent. Right,
Yep.
Miami technically won by more, even though they were doing the whole run up the score bullshit.
Yep.
It's a head to head, so I think they got this right. Now, the conversation between Notre Dame and Alabama is different, right? I'm okay with I mean, honestly, I would have put Miami and Notre Dame in, kicked BYU and Alabama out. Bama and BYU,
I think I would have too.
in my eyes, showed very recently, last Saturday, that they have no business being in the same building with Georgia and Texas Tech, right? Yep. So you're telling me they very likely do not have a good chance to win because they just got dominated on Saturday by two college football playoff teams.
Yeah.
You can't say the same about Notre Dame and Miami. Notre Dame's lost to Miami, and then their 1 point loss to Texas A&M, like on the 4th and goal,
3 months
right?
ago. Yeah,
and they're all playing a lot better. And then to Miami's credit, they took some lumps and lost some games they shouldn't have in Louisville and SMU.
Yep.
SMU, a playoff team from last year.
Yep.
Louisville, a team that was, if they didn't mess around and get some of these injuries, they have NFL talent on their roster. They're still a 8-9 win team, whatever they are. Miami over Notre Dame, I'm okay with. I think head to head has to matter.
Agreed.
Why play the games?
I think the biggest gripe that Notre Dame has is they've been a playoff team ever since the College Football Playoff Committee has been presenting the rankings. They've been in the 10 spot. They haven't moved. They've been in the 10 hole the entire time.
Yep.
Where Miami started 18th and just slowly starts to climb because they keep stacking wins. Other teams lose, and they keep jumping
sliding
teams.
Up, whatever, right.
And there's been this talk where like they group teams into these little tiny groups. Like we're going to look at these 3 or 4 teams compared
Doesn't
to
make any sense
others.
To me. Yeah.
And at first maybe they weren't looking at Notre Dame and Miami because they were 18 or 8 spots away. Well, the past 3 or 4 weeks they've been kind of within that 3 or 4 team bump. So you have to start looking at that. Yeah. And now that they're neck and neck, 11 or 10 11 11 12 whatever they were, now we're going to start looking at them. I don't understand that.
I completely agree with you. I mean, it's just idiotic, right? It's just like they're just so inconsistent, right? And the last thing we'll talk about before we get to the futures and kind of final remarks, JMU over Duke.
Yeah,
I think that's correct.
I agree.
I almost thought they were gonna. I thought they were gonna put the ACC winner in no matter what over another group of 5. Yeah. Big picture,
which also brings up: did Miami get the nod because they are in the ACC and you didn't want to leave a Power 4 out?
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point. I do think that they probably made the right choice of the top 5 highest rated conference champions. And JMU has one loss on the road at Louisville, 14-point
Yeah,
loss. I don't think Tulane and JMU are the best group of 5 teams this year from like recent history. I think
sure,
the Boise State team of last year beats the brakes off of both these teams.
100%.
But for
And
the
that's why that group of 5 was given, that automatic bid last,
right,
when this was first
I
developed, was because, a lot of times we do have a 12-1, a undefeated team that's like 13th, 14th. That's a conference champion. Well, we didn't have
right,
that this year,
yeah.
and JMU is as close as you get, I guess. But they played nobody literally all year.
Yeah, no, and I think that for the overall health of college football, I like that JMU's in here, but I think this year, man,
Now,
I don't
now
know.
my question is, because you have on our show sheet over here, you have the odds to win the whole damn thing.
Right?
JMU being in the 12 spot is 60-1.
Yeah,
Tulane is 80-1,
I think
and
that's
they're
right.
ranked ahead of them. So, obviously the playoff committee guys don't have anybody checking DraftKings and FanDuel and checking these betting spots where,
Right,
you know, usually Vegas has a general idea on who has a chance to win this thing.
right.
Um, and you have your 12 seed, you know, a betting or a better favorite than Tulane. They're kind of neck and neck with Oklahoma, who's in the
Yeah.
eight speed.
No, yeah, that is interesting, and some of that is people betting in and stuff. And yeah, let's get to the futures. I'm gonna go off the DraftKings prices. I'll rattle off. I'll just go all of them, and then you tell me if any of them stick out to you, and then we'll get on to the Army Navy game here.
Yeah.
So we got Indiana plus 250, Ohio State plus 240. This is to win it all.
Yep.
This is over at DraftKings. Georgia plus 600, Texas Tech 8-1, Oregon plus 750. Ole Miss 25-1, A&M 18-1, Oklahoma 55-1, Bama 25-1, Miami 25-1, Tulane 80-1, and JMU 61, as you mentioned. Do any of these stick out to you? Are there any that you're playing or have played from the futures market?
I have not played any. Honestly, this is when we right before the show, and I pulled this up. This is the first I've looked into the numbers for
Yeah.
this. The two that I might have to put in the personal portfolio is Texas Tech and Oregon.
Oh,
I
okay.
I really like Texas Tech as a team. I think they are one of the top 3 teams in the country. But I mean, Oregon, that they're a wagon up there in
Yeah.
Eugene, and having that game in the quarterfinal, I think obviously Oregon has to beat JMU. They might do that by 5 touchdowns. We'll see, but I think that quarterfinal matchup is going to be massive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that'd be both your teams there coming in there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and honestly, I think whoever comes out of that one, I put them right up there with Indiana, Oklahoma, or Alabama coming one spot down there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, so I will say, because I also like Texas Tech here. They're one of the ones I will bet on. I've already put a couple of these in. 9-1 over on Bet365 and FanDuel. So make sure you get a good price if you like Texas Tech better than DraftKings right now. Indiana at plus 290 over at FanDuel as well as one. And you looked at, I do think they were one of the best teams, if not the best team. So I do like that. Obviously, the price is interesting. They're the second favorite, so it makes sense there. The only other one that I'd like to talk about, Texas A&M, 18-1. I understand that they, lost that game at Texas and, the game against South Carolina and whatever. I still think they have one of the better offensive lines and defensive lines in college football. I think Marcel Reed is a very dynamic player. Now, I think they're 18-1 because their side of the bracket is a lot harder, right? That's why I think Texas Tech is probably the best value there at 9-1. But Miami is going to be at State College there at Kyle Field, so that's going to be an electric environment. I still think Carson Beck on the road can be a little bit turnover prone.
That's probably the first round of games. That's probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most.
Right, definitely should be the most competitive in my eyes. Look, you got Georgia and Ohio State on the other side of the bracket here. They look like they're destined to square off yet again. I do think A&M could provide some trouble for Ohio State. That would be kind of my long shot. It's 18-1. That's the one I would be where the above 10-1, the only one that I'm playing. I think they're the only one that has a realistic shot based off their offensive line, their coach, and the veteran quarterback and Marcel Reed. So we will talk.
To your point, being a Buckeyes fan, I'm hoping Carson Beck finds a way to get a victory down there in Texas A&M, because if Marcel Reed, I think to your point, their offense and defensive line are loaded, and can definitely provide some issues versus anybody. Marcel Reed can be a little inconsistent at times.
Absolutely.
And if he puts on his Superman cape for whatever game that is, he's a wagon. If not, I think they roll.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears, because we are going to talk a ton more about the college football playoff on our next week's show. But this week's show, we are dedicating mostly to the Army-Navy game, the great Army-Navy game. Again, this is the 126th meeting between Army and Navy. The way we're going to do this is we'll do our history first, and then we'll kind of go more into the game breakdown. But 6-5 Army Black Knights are headed to M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, to take on the 9-2 Navy Midshipmen, or the Navy Seamen, as I like to call them. The Black Knights are catching 6, -108. This is over at DraftKings. Moneyline plus 200. Over-under 838.5. Navy -240. This is going to be a mid-30s game at M&T Bank Stadium. A couple of history notes here. This, again, first game that these two teams played, 1890, November 29th, 1890, which was at West Point. Unfortunately, the bad guys in Navy won that one 24-0. The last game played was at Northwest Stadium there, 14 December. Navy won that one 31-13. So, not great. But 126 times these two teams have met. The all-time record, Navy has 63 wins, Army has 55 wins, and there were 7 ties back when you could do that in college football. Yeah, do not bet a tie in this one. Will not be happening. Series history. So the last 10 times, actually, we'll do that one later. Let's get to the uniforms, because this is always the fun part here.
Yeah.
Let's kick it off with, why don't you do the bad guys first?
Okay.
Always these teams bring the fire. They bring the heat with the uniform combination here. So this is Navy's edition for the 2025 game. Why don't you tell us a little bit of history about their uniforms and what they mean?
Yeah, we're honoring the U.S. Navy's 250th anniversary on this 25th year of 2025. And it goes back to its original 6 frigates. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Frigates?
Look, it's a ship thing, bro. Don't be asking me about that. But ships, basically.
Anyways, 6 ropes, 250 knots are being displayed. But yeah, color-wise, it's Navy's original colors, basically, in terms of the uniforms. The dark navy blue, plus the ship's hull colors being shown on the helmet there. So we got that copper-colored
the helmet
with a nod to the role of metal, as it's
basically when they
of
the construction of that ship, that USS Constitution that they're talking about there. That's kind of what they're trying to really honor in this one.
So we got old iron sides being shown on the helmet there. But basically, jersey wise, it includes 6 ropes, 2 per sleeve, and then the collars with 250 knots total, representing the 250 years. And then text wise, we got Navy 250th on the nameplate instead of last names. We just have Navy 250th because they're a unit. They don't go into battle as single players. They go in as as a unit. So instead of their traditional names on the jerseys, we just have Navy 250th. Font was inspired by the 1794 Act to provide naval Armament. There we
Yes.
go. Armament. My font's really small. Had to shrink things down. But yeah, traditional Navy colors. We got old Ironsides on the helmet there in the copper. Pretty sick looking. And that guy that's facing us in the picture, absolutely jacked. I don't know what you guys are doing
Okay.
over there in
Okay.
the Army,
All
but
right.
I want on
Calm down.
Navy's Arm Day program.
All right. Well, listen, this wasn't a promotion for Navy. But yes, USS Constitution there, honoring one of their 6 original ships. Still the only one standing and or floating, as I should say.
Yeah.
So the six ropes that you're going to see there is honoring those 6 original, and then the 250s for the 250th, right? So those are the bad guys. Now for the good guys here, and I probably should have said this up front, but yes, I am disclaimer. I am captain in the United States Army. Very proud. This game means a lot to us. But at the end of the day, all on the same team. Well, I have to say this now since I said that.
On
My
Saturday.
opinions are opinions of my own. They do not represent the U.S. Army or the DoD as a whole. It's my opinions. Yep. All right, great. But the good guys, the Army Black Knights, and their fire ass uniforms here. So yeah, in a very similar fashion, we are honoring the Army's 250 years, right? So we celebrated the birthday on June 14th. It was 1775. The Continental Army was formed. So that is what we are throwing it back to here. Now, the color is pretty damn sweet because it's our first all whites we've ever worn.
Yep.
And it is marble to do a nod to Arlington Cemetery and the headstones there. I have not had the pleasure to go to Arlington Cemetery just yet, but definitely on the bucket list to make it over there. And I've just heard from everyone essentially what a serene experience to honor and pay the sacrifice there for those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. The print is from the U.S. Constitution, as you will see better on the back nameplate there, United States Army, because we are one, right? And at the end of the day, that's who they're representing today. Or on Saturday, it's not just the men and women that are on the field. It's kind of really the entire U.S. Army, and that's how we feel about it. The purple that you see, it's a little bit hard to see now, but you'll see him on game day. It was the kind of paying ode to the Purple Heart and what was originally the military badge of merit there. The helmet is silver.
The purple's in the number, correct?
It's on the outline, I think, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or is it in the number?
I don't know.
It's hard to tell
I'll
here.
take a look here. See if I can
Yeah, I
find
think
one.
it's on the outs, like the outline of it.
Okay.
And then the helmet is that nice silver, sweet ass helmet. That's talking about the tip of the spear that we always say. You also have the Army seal on the back, where they'll kind of put on all the official documents. But tip of the spear just means lead from the front, right? You always want to make sure that that's all your actions are, something that's honorable and want to lead from the front is something we often say. The jersey is pretty interesting when they talk about there's this chain that you can see. And that I thought was pretty cool because there's this great chain essentially. Hudson River. So for those that don't know, West Point sits right on the Hudson River. And back in the day in 1775 there, they had a great chain that essentially was used as a blockade from the British to try to, not allow them to get into that major port town there in New York. So that was what they were paying a little bit of homage to. And then obviously the text is based off the Constitution, which represents what our founding fathers made for this great country. So, look, I will say 2 fire uniforms as always.
Oh, no doubt.
This game is always a really sick ass game for a lot of reasons. I love that it's played at the end of the years. I love that it's usually in cold. We're probably not getting snow this year, but it's going to be pretty damn cold and close. But just an awesome game that, we wanted to talk about and highlight. And yeah, let's talk about this game from a betting perspective now.
Do it.
And let's go to look, we did the game lines again. Army is the underdog, catching 6 there in a neutral site game. Over/under sitting at 38.5, which is low but pretty high for an Army Navy game actually. So it's probably going to go down. So if you are on the under, you probably want to bet that soon. Mid 30s and cloudies. And this is at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. So it's at the Ravens Stadium. It's a neutral site. They've been moving around the past few years. All right, brother. Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, I mean, if we just look back at the last, I don't know, 10 or 11 games here, I mean, the easiest thing to bet is the under, as long as it stays at 38.5. I mean, in
Yep.
the past 10 or 11 years, the over at 38.5 would have only hit 3 times. Typically, this is a 36, 37 point game. We know how both of these teams play. They like to drag it out. They don't like to, provide the other team with a lot of possessions. It's just how many stops can you get? And at the end of the day, I trust both of these defenses to get some stops throughout the day. So, going under 38.5, I think that's the easiest play on the board. But at the end of the day, we don't see many blowouts in
No.
this game. This is usually a 3-4 point game, unlike last year. Last year was a big time anomaly compared to
Yep.
basically any other year within the last 10 or 11 years. Back in 2019, Navy won 31-7. This past year, they won 31-13. But looking at both of these teams, I mean, both teams at times have played some pretty good ball. Obviously, Navy has the better record coming into it, but Army. Let's just take a look at their couple losses here. They lost to an East Carolina team 28-6, and then they lost to a pretty damn good North Texas team 45-38. And North Texas can put it on about anybody. They don't play much defense, and Army was able to score pretty easily in that one. If we look at
On the Navy side,
one other thing here, Army did lose to a college football playoff team in Tulane, 24-17.
Yeah.
Navy has yet to play a college football playoff team. Oh wait, Notre Dame. They didn't make it. Anyways, they have lost 2 games. One was to Notre Dame 49-10. One was to North Texas. They do have one common opponent in North Texas there. They lost 31-17.
Yeah.
So I do think that this one's going to be a close one. I think this is going to be within the 6.5 number there. So give me Army and the points in this one. And then if you parlay them together, I did that as well, and I was thinking it came out to like plus 285-ish.
There you go. Well, I like it. You're on the right side, so I don't have to fire you as a co-host, which makes me
I'm
happy.
taking the points. I'll take the points.
You have to.
I'm not gonna necessarily say who wins this game.
Wow, that's terrible. Okay, never mind. Maybe still on the chopping block. All right, look, let's start with the under 38.5. I think it's a great play. You can get it minus 105 over on FanDuel. I would get it now because at
100%.
that number of 38.5 in the last 10 games, it's 1-9, or excuse me, 9-1 to the under, right? There's a whole bunch of 38s that end on this game, right? So last year was the first year in 10 years that it went over this number. You get a lot of 21-17. That's happened twice in the past 10 years.
14-13.
Yes.
37 points.
31-7, right? That's 38. You get a lot of 38s that pop up here. So the under 38.5 is a very strong play.
A lot of 30s or a lot of 37s. That's the big one in my opinion. There's a lot of 17-10, 14-13s. Yeah.
Well, those would be 27s, buddy. But
See, I still suck at math.
Yeah, you're letting the military guy outdo you on math. That's a scary sight. But yes,
I'm a professor of exercise science, not math.
9-1 to the under 38.5 the last 10 games. So throw out the recency bias there with the last game popping over at 44. And then the 6-point spread. That would have only covered 3 times in the last 10 years. We talked about it. Typically, you take the under and you take the dog. History, I understand last year the dog won outright in Navy, as annoying as that was.
Big time.
And I see this year being a lot of similar, but the other way, right?
Yeah.
You had an Army that was on an all-time high. You have Bryson Daly, who should have been in the Heisman conversation. Dude was a stud. And Army had one of their best years in recent history. Yeah. And Navy comes in and beats them, right? So Army just won the AAC championship off their first season being in the AAC. Huge where Navy still beats them, and they beat the brakes off them, right? So to take Navy laying the 6 is crazy to me. Give me Army +6. If you want it +6.5 with some juice, you can get that at FanDuel. But just give me the Army +6 at -108 over on DraftKings. And give me Army Moneyline +200. What are we talking about here? You take the dog in this matchup. Army's been thinking about this game for 365 days. They've been thinking about how they were on their high horse. And you brought it up, man. When we talk about competition, 3 of Army's losses are to really good teams. The top of the AAC, right? East Carolina, Tulane, North Texas. Tulane, North Texas both played in the AAC championship, right? When you look at Navy, they've played some decent teams. They lost to North Texas by a lot. USF and Memphis were pretty okay.
Couple good wins.
Those were some solid wins, right? But I don't think they're this massive juggernaut. I think it's a fairly inflated 9-2 overall record. They played a lot of bottom barrel teams to start. And even in those, USF, the win was only 3 points.
Yep.
And Memphis, that was a nice little 11-point win. But that was kind of a dream crusher for Memphis. They already knew they were out. So, yeah, absolutely. Now, I will talk. I got a couple other plays, more of the fun variety. I do want to talk about these teams and their quarterbacks because their quarterbacks are both the leading rushers and passers on this team.
Yep.
For Army, you have Cale Helms, right? Now, this is a guy who he wasn't, I don't know why, but Monken Jeff Monken was toying around with the quarterback. He kept trying to make Dwayne Carter a thing. It was not a thing. The junior and Cale Helms here, in the 8 games, he got more than 10 carries, which means he actually started and didn't just come in spot work.
Right.
He's 6-2 as a starter. So Dwayne Carter is responsible for 3 of those losses. And he has 18 total touchdowns. Blake Horvath, on the other end, has 23 total touchdowns in the 11 games he played in. Again, both these guys lead their team. Both these defenses are kind of meh against the run. Giving up 143 and 147. Army solid against the pass. Navy bad against the pass. But both these teams, bottom in the pass offense, they both run the ball, right? Yep. Nothing you didn't know already there. Now, I've talked about Army +6. I've talked about Army to win. Now, if I want them to win, I'm going to take Army to win by 1-6 at +425. Not a lot of blowouts, one way or the other, right? So if you maybe are like, hey, I want some more value on my Army money line, you could do the Army to win by 1-6 at +425 winning band. I think that's a way. Now, player props wise, I would say to probably just go ahead and follow us over on the X there at the DGen Doc because they don't have a lot of player props out right now. The only book I found with one with some touchdown props was Bet365. And I give me Cale Helms anytime touchdown -130. Again, in the games that he's actually got carries in, he has hit this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all but the last game. He's hit this. So he's hit this in 7 out of 8 games, and then 2+ touchdowns at +425. He's hit that in 5 out of 8 of his starts. Right? So Helms is a touchdown machine. I think the -130 price is incredibly wrong. The 2+ touchdown price is +425. And then because I have to get a little bit DGen here, correct score bets. Army 17, Navy 13 at 100-1. And then Army 27, Navy 17 at 75-1. Really just looked at history there. There was a lot of those score combinations. Right, 17-13, 21-17. If you want, you could play them both ways because they're such, high value plays. I won't be doing that because one team will be walking out victorious here on Saturday. But yeah, that's what I got, man. I know a little bit off the rails there because I love this game and gonna be locked in.
Hey, can we talk about Blake Horvath as well though? Because I mean that dude's a stud.
He is a stud.
Blake Horvath has 23 total touchdowns to Helms 18 total touchdowns, and he's from the great state of Ohio, right outside of Columbus,
Back to the damn Ohio thing. Yeah, we started the show talking about damn Ohio, and now we're back there. But Horvath is an absolute.
Blake Horvath, reigning from I believe Hilliard, Ohio, just outside of Columbus. There.
So. Yeah, whatever. Look, after Saturday when he joins the armed forces and is a brother in arms, I will speak all the Horvath praise that you want. But for Saturday, enemy number 1, baby. Take him down. But, man, I am jacked up for this game, as you could probably tell. We hope you enjoy Army-Navy game. Hope you enjoyed a little bit more, knowing a little bit of the history of what's been going on, what the uniforms mean.
Yep.
Both teams typically put out a video, which is really sick. I know Army's already posted theirs about explaining a little bit about why they chose the uniform, and there's many articles that I will be retweeting and posting all week because it really is one of my favorite games.
Yep.
But hey, we're aligned. Pretty good sign typically in the betting space for us this year in the college sport. Under 38.5 and the Army +6. We are both taking there. I've got a little more gumption in thinking Army's going to take this down, but hey, at least we're both hopefully on the right side. Look, folks, what do you got for the people before we get on here?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this episode a day earlier than we typically do our college episode, but that doesn't mean we're not going to do the NFL on Wednesday night. And we are coming off of basically incredible
11-3
over the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
Both nailed it in the props market. And yeah, both nailed it on, I think. Did you sweep your locks? Or we both
No, we went 3-1. So yeah,
3-1 on our locks. One of us swept our props. One of us went 2-1. So
yes, exactly.
doing pretty well over in the NFL books. But you still have your injury report coming out on Thursday evening as well for us fantasy nerds. It's fantasy football playoff time, so we got to make sure our lineups are set and rock and ready to roll. But yeah, if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, go ahead and do that. We appreciate any love that you guys give us. We're just giving out free plays week after week. And as long as you guys give us a little bit of love back, we're going to do this as long as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. As Derek mentioned, 22-6 in our last two shows for the NFL in both the props and the best bets, which is the main things of the show.
Yep.
So we've been crushing it the last 2 weeks. So look, college football, we'll talk next week. We will talk college football playoff and all the matchups there. Probably do it on Monday as well because the games start Wednesday, Thursday. So just to get it out there for y'all. But yeah, NFL is going to keep crushing it. And then the injury reports for both defense and offense, if that's what your thing is. But man, enjoy this game. This is what real football is all about. Triple option. I will be taking no Army-Navy slander. So if you have anything bad to say, you can shove it where the sun don't shine. I'll invite you back into life after Saturday. But you know what they say, folks. A lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here at the DGen Docs, we've got your prescription from Professor Locks and Doc here on DFSG Plus. We are Go Army, beat Navy, out of here.